This channel talks about movies in slow, clear English to help you practice your English listening comprehension. What happens when four familiar emotions suddenly have to make room for four brand new ones, all at once, inside a 13-year-old's mind? Let's talk about Inside Out 2. Let's start with the story. Riley is now 13 years old, and almost overnight, she's becoming a teenager. Inside her mind, her original 5 emotions, joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust, have spent years running things smoothly from behind a control console. Then, one night, without any warning, a construction crew arrives inside Riley's mind. Her control panel is torn out to make room for something bigger. A brand new, more complicated system built for a much more complicated stage of life. 4 new emotions burst onto the scene: anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and ennui. Feeling anxious, envious, embarrassed, or bored with everything are all completely normal parts of growing up. And this film gives each of those feelings its own physical character. Anxious describes worrying about what might happen next, rather than what's actually happening right now. The story properly kicks off at a 3-day ice hockey camp, where Riley is trying out for a spot on her high school's varsity team, alongside her 2 best friends. Riley arrives already feeling apprehensive about fitting in with players she's never met before. To feel apprehensive means to feel worried or nervous about something that's about to happen, without knowing exactly how it will turn out. Almost immediately, Riley starts to feel embarrassed in front of the older, cooler players she's hoping to impress. Being surrounded by older, more confident girls makes Riley acutely self-conscious about everything, from the sound of her own laugh to the way she stands. To be self-conscious means to be overly aware of yourself in a way that makes you uncomfortable around other people. Anxiety quickly takes charge, convinced that if she plans for every possible bad outcome, she can protect Riley from ever getting hurt. She rewrites Riley's entire sense of self overnight, replacing her old, comfortable identity with a new one built entirely around not being good enough yet. Riley becomes so overwhelmed trying to please the older girls that she starts abandoning her actual friends, without even fully realizing she's doing it. To feel overwhelmed means to have so many thoughts or feelings at once that you don't know how to cope with them. joy and the other original emotions are forced out of the control room entirely, sent to the back of Riley's mind, and it's up to them to find a way back before anxiety takes things too far. Along the way, one especially memorable stop is a section of Riley's mind called the Vault, where she keeps memories she's deeply embarrassed by, guarded so that nobody, not even Riley herself, has to look at them directly. Getting back to headquarters turns out to be its own adventure. Joy's group has to cross a dry, cracked canyon of pure sarcasm, where nothing anyone says can be trusted at face value, and later stumbles across Riley's old, half-forgotten imaginary friends, still living happily in a nearly abandoned part of her mind. Eventually, with no other way home, they build a rough raft out of Riley's own memories and sail it down a river of consciousness, back toward the control room, racing against the clock the entire way. Meanwhile, back at camp, anxiety pushes harder and harder, convinced that more effort and more control will finally make Riley feel safe. Riley grows increasingly envious of one particular teammate, a confident, easygoing player who seems to belong effortlessly in a way Riley doesn't yet. Feeling envious means wanting something someone else has, often mixed with a little resentment that they have it and you don't. The tension builds until Riley has a full panic attack in front of her coach and teammates, unable to breathe properly, entirely overwhelmed by anxiety's constant, spiraling predictions of disaster. In the film's emotional climax, joy and the rest of the original emotions finally reach the control room, and anxiety is forced to admit she was never actually trying to hurt Riley, just desperately trying to protect her. Anxiety is conflicted in that moment, caught between wanting control and realizing the cost of it. Feeling conflicted means having two opposing feelings or ideas at the same time. Now, let's talk about how this story is told and why it resonated with so many people well beyond just families with children. The film represents these new, more complicated feelings almost entirely through action and character animation, rather than lengthy dialogue, letting audiences feel the emotional chaos rather than simply being told about it. Critics and psychologists alike praised how accurately the film captures what it's like to feel deeply insecure about who you are, right at the exact moment you're expected to know exactly who you are. Feeling insecure means lacking confidence in yourself, often worrying that you're not good enough compared to other people. By the end of the film, Riley doesn't end up with a simple, single, good sense of self. Instead, she learns to hold a mixture of good and bad, proud and embarrassed, confident and anxious, all at the same time. That final message, that it's normal, even healthy, to feel ambivalent about who you are, is a big part of why so many adults, not just children, said this film genuinely helped them process their own emotions. Feeling ambivalent means having mixed feelings about something, not being fully one way or the other. Alongside our main emotion words, this episode also has 5 bonus vocabulary words for you, pulled from how critics and audiences have actually talked about this film. Our first word is authentic. Authentic means genuine and true to real life, rather than exaggerated or fake. Critics repeatedly praised how authentic the film's portrayal of anxiety and growing up actually feels, especially for a family animation. Our second word is relatable. Relatable describes something you can personally understand or connect with, because it reflects your own experience. Many adult viewers said Riley's emotional struggles felt deeply relatable, not just childish. Our third word is coming of age. A coming-of-age story is one that focuses on a young person's transition from childhood into adulthood. Inside Out 2 is frequently described as a coming-of-age story, told entirely from the inside of someone's mind. Our fourth word is resonate. When something resonates with you, it creates a strong emotional connection or response. The film's message about mixed emotions resonated with both children and adults, which is part of why it performed so well. Our fifth and final word is poignant. Poignant describes something that creates a strong feeling of sadness or emotion, often mixed with tenderness. Several critics called the film's ending genuinely poignant, rather than simply happy. Now, let's talk about how Inside Out 2 has actually been received, and why people are still discussing it well over a year after its release. Critically, the response was extremely strong from the very beginning. The film holds a 91% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, alongside an even higher 94% audience score. Genuinely rare agreement between critics and everyday viewers. Commercially, the film became a phenomenon. It crossed $1.699 billion worldwide, making it the highest-grossing animated film of all time. the highest-grossing film Pixar has ever released, and the very first film of 2024 to cross the billion-dollar mark. Beyond the numbers, a huge part of the ongoing conversation around this film has been about mental health. Parents, teachers, and even therapists have talked publicly about using Inside Out 2 as a genuinely useful way to help children, and sometimes adults, put a name to complicated feelings like anxiety, envy, and embarrassment, rather than just feeling generally bad without knowing why. Not every reaction was entirely positive. Some reviews felt that with 4 new emotions added to 5 existing ones, a few characters, particularly envy and ennui, didn't get quite as much individual development as the film's central focus on anxiety. This was also director Kelsey Mann's first time leading a Pixar film, taking over from Pete Docter, who directed the original Inside Out, and moved on to an executive role across the studio. Reviewers frequently noted how confidently the sequel handled that handover, expanding the world of the first film rather than simply repeating it. Online, discussion of the film today tends to focus on a few recurring topics: how accurately it depicts a panic attack, whether the new emotions deserved more screen time of their own, and just how unusual it is for a children's film to have become such a widely referenced tool for talking about mental health in schools and homes alike. Let's go through the emotion words from this episode. Anxious. Worrying about what might happen next, rather than what's happening right now. Riley felt anxious about meeting the older players. Apprehensive. Feeling worried or nervous about something about to happen. She was apprehensive about the first day of camp. Embarrassed. Feeling foolish or uncomfortable because of something you did or think others noticed. He felt embarrassed after tripping in front of everyone. Self-conscious. Overly aware of yourself in a way that makes you uncomfortable. Being watched so closely made her feel self-conscious. Overwhelmed. Having so many thoughts or feelings at once that you don't know how to cope. The new emotions felt completely overwhelmed at first. Envious. Wanting something someone else has, often mixed with resentment. She felt envious of her teammates' easy confidence. Conflicted. Having 2 opposing feelings or ideas at the same time. He felt conflicted about leaving his old friends behind. Insecure. Lacking confidence in yourself, often comparing yourself unfavorably to others. Riley felt insecure about who she really was. Ambivalent. Having mixed feelings about something, not fully one way or the other. It's healthy to feel ambivalent about big changes in your life. Try describing your own mixed feelings about something using one of these words instead of just saying good or bad. Let's also go through our 5 bonus vocabulary words from this episode. Authentic. Genuine and true to real life, rather than exaggerated. The anxiety in this film feels authentic. Relatable. Something you can personally understand or connect with. Many adults found Riley's story deeply relatable. Coming of age. Describing a story about the transition from childhood to adulthood. This is a coming of age story told from inside someone's mind. Resonate. To create a strong emotional connection or response. The message about mixed emotions resonated with audiences. Poignant. Creating a strong feeling of sadness or emotion, often mixed with tenderness. Critics called the ending genuinely poignant. Try using one of these 5 words yourself, either to describe this film or another story that stayed with you emotionally. So, what's the final verdict on Inside Out 2? It's one of the more emotionally intelligent films Pixar has ever made, and one of the rare family animations that genuinely has as much to say to adults as it does to children. Rather than simply repeating what made the first film work, it takes a genuine risk by making its central conflict messier and harder to resolve, which is exactly why so many people, of very different ages, say it stayed with them well after the credits. If you enjoy stories that take feelings seriously without ever losing their sense of humor, this is very much worth your time, whether or not you've seen the first film. Did you enjoy Inside Out 2? Let me know in the comments on the video, or get in touch. If this helped you improve your English today, subscribe on YouTube, or follow along on Spotify or Apple Podcasts for more movies reviewed in slow, clear English. Interactive learning materials for this lesson can be found for free on engmoviereviews.com.